Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Visibility Era, the podcast. We have a very special guest with us today, Natalie Barbu. She is a content creator, a podcaster of an incredible show, The Real Real. I got to meet her actually. One of my clients at the agency side was asked to be on her show. So we went down together, went to Miami, and I immediately felt like I needed to know everything about her, what's she doing. She has a thriving YouTube channel and is the founder of Rella, which is a project management platform for creators, managers, and their team to automate and streamline their business. So, Natalie, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. I am so excited, and thanks for that intro.
You're welcome. I feel like we have so many questions to ask you, but I think where we should start is just talking about your content creation background. Bridget was telling me before we hopped on that she went back to your very first episode to see when you started.
Your first YouTube video. I was like, I need to see it.
Oh my gosh. So you saw 15-year-old me.
She was so cute. She was talking about her makeup. And yeah, we want to hear like the backstory of how you even got started and how that journey has been.
Yeah, that's so funny because I intentionally keep that video up, even though I've privated a lot of older videos. Some of my very first ones I still have up on my channel because I always think it's important to show, like, hey, when I started, this is what YouTube was like. This is what the quality was like. This is, like I started knowing nothing and like I just kept going and it ended up being a career, which I think can encourage some people. But I started when I was 15 and I'm 27 now. So almost 13 years actually. I'm about to be 28. And so it's going to be 13 years in the summer because I started in the summer of 2011. And I started because I was just bored at my house in the summer. Like I didn't have I wasn't playing any sports at the time. I wasn't, doing anything. I was just kind of like at my house bored in the middle of, I think ninth and 10th grade it was. So, or maybe 10th. Yeah, I think ninth and 10th grade. And I was watching other creators online, like girls that were around my age that kind of looked like me that were making makeup videos just in their bedrooms. And I was like, wait, this is kind of cool. I feel like I could do this. And at the time, I wasn't wearing a lot of makeup. I didn't really know what I was doing. I always liked fashion, but like I didn't really know how to do my makeup. And so I learned from these girls on YouTube. And I was like, wait, I can show people what I learned and do something like this. And so I started filming on my computer, and back then the quality was not good. You can go and see the first video. I'm like showing people eyeshadow, like I'm like holding it up like
Yeah.
this, and like the laptop doesn't focus. So like my hand being back here is not like doing anything. But I just really wanted to start and thought it was fun. And I became obsessed with the idea of like building community on the internet before that was even like a word or a thing people were doing. Like I remember having 3 subscribers, literally 3 people subscribing. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is the coolest thing ever. Because this was before Instagram. So, like, followers were not a thing. Like, I had Facebook at the time, and you would request your friends, but like, you weren't following people you didn't know. And so, this was the first thing to me where it was like actually building a community of people that you did not know personally and having them be interested in your content. And I became just obsessed with it and kept doing it.
It's such a great reminder that like how far we've come because there wasn't followers. Like I remember when Instagram came out and there was all those filters and I was doing these like moody pictures of my coffee. Like imagine, never would I never would we do that.
I know, I know. It's like I remember Instagram first coming out and not really understanding what it was. And people were like, oh, it's just like a photo sharing app. So I would upload like 20 photos at a time with like a sepia filter, like
The
whatever
sepia.
the border around it, and think I was like the artsiest person. And that was just what you did. And I remember not realizing Instagram had followers or that you would follow people. So I remember the first time I uploaded to Instagram, I uploaded a bunch of content and then I got notifications like so and so liked your photo. And I was like, who is this? I'm like, who is liking what is a like? Like I didn't even like know what it was. Like I was so confused. I thought it was just a photo editing app. And then obviously realized that that's not what it was, but yeah, it was. I'm so glad that I was around for like the early social media days.
Yeah, I remember in high school when I first started learning about YouTube, and there was this like music video. They did like live sessions in Europe, and I remember it was life-changing for me. I was like, I want to be in the music industry, which is a story for another time. We did that, been there, done that, didn't love it. But I have gone back to that video recently and the quality is so bad. And I remember thinking like, this is so clear and amazing. So can you tell us, I just wanted to share that because I think it's so funny from how far we've come. But can you tell us if there was any moment where you realized like, oh, there's some traction here and like I'm growing this community and this is something that I can do for maybe a career?
Yeah, I didn't realize I could do this as a career. Well, I guess the first time I thought that like, "Oh my god, this is so cool," is I was a freshman in college, and I was doing it already for like 2 to 3 years at that point. It was like gonna be my 3rd year doing it. And I remember getting my first brand deal, and it was for like $100 or something like that. Like it wasn't for like a lot of money, but it was or $50 or whatever it was. And it was like an entire dedicated video, like on YouTube about this shampoo and conditioner and these products I use. And I did a whole video on it for like $50 and like free shampoo. And I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, this is so cool that someone is paying me to like make a video on this. Like I was like over the moon. And that one was like a product I didn't really use. Like it was a cool product and like I ended up using it once they sent it to me, but it wasn't like L'Oreal or like, you know, an established brand. And then I remember the store Windsor. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but it's kind of
Yeah.
like a Princess Polly type of store. Um, they reached out to me and they were like, "We love your content. We would love to send you clothes for you to, you know, just take some pictures and like post on Instagram or like make a YouTube video, whatever." Like it was very flexible and it was for a bunch of free clothes. And I remember they sent me like something like 500, 600, $700 worth of free clothes. And at that, for a college student, I was like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. And I did like a whole photo shoot. I sent them so many pictures and like I made YouTube videos on it and like style guides and all of this. And I had like that was probably like my longest lasting partnership for those like 4 years when I was in school because I just was so grateful that they wanted to work with me that I put so much effort in. And I feel like when you're, no matter like what stage you're in, it's so important to build those like good relationships with brands because even though there are people with more followers than me or more engagement, I think I've done a good job at like maintaining a relationship with brands and having them like want to continue to work with me because of that like personal relationship that we now have. So, anyways, going back to like that brand deal, those two brand deals were when I was like, wait, this could be something bigger. And then I started noticing that there were other creators that were around my age that I started watching when I started creating my videos, and they were moving to LA and they weren't going to college. And I was like, wait, if they're able to move to LA, not go to school, live on their own, they have to be making a lot of money. You know, like they have to be making enough to support themselves. And so that is when I like made a resolution to myself. I was like, I don't know if I'll ever be able to do this full time. Like that was never my goal. Like it would have been cool, but I didn't know if I would ever like get that opportunity to. But I was like, I am going to start treating this as a business and like start being consistent. So I made a weekly schedule. I started like creating like I'm having a content calendar, writing out my ideas and like making sure that I took it seriously because I knew that it had potential to be a business, even if it was just a side hustle for the rest of my life.
This is so cool. I am a huge YouTube fan just as a consumer. So like I've done a lot of research about like how these, big channels are monetizing through the brand deals, through sponsorship, through like, just people being able to watch these videos. And I think it's just amazing that there's so much opportunity out there for anyone. Like anyone can do this, but it is about consistency. And like when you're first getting started, did you pick a specific like niche or theme and then continue to make videos on that? Or when did you start to like branch out into like a day in my life kind of videos?
Yeah, I was doing whatever was popular at the time, which was like the fashion and beauty scene. So I did a lot of fashion and beauty content. Once vlogs started becoming popular, though, I definitely jumped on that. So I would do a lot of college day in my life, week in my life. Probably my like junior, senior year of college is when I really started doing it. I wish those were popular starting my freshman year because I would love to go back and watch like my freshman year self and like not just like my fashion, but like an actual vlog. Like I think that would be so fun. Um, so I wish those were popular then, but at the time it just wasn't. Like vlogs were not really a thing until probably my junior year. So that's when I started filming those and that's when my channel actually started to grow. So I started to film a
Mm.
lot of like it was growing pretty steadily before then, but like that's when it started I had like big growth spurts, I would say. Nothing like went viral, but I was just getting like consistently higher views when I would talk about like day in the life, week in the life as a college student. And specifically, I would title it like as an engineering student because there weren't that many girls that were doing engineering. And so I think it really stood out that I was, filming this lifestyle content, but I also had that engineering background and a lot of people were curious about it. And so like to this day I get comments that are like, you're the reason why I decided to go into engineering, like your videos. And I'm like, wow, that's so cool because I know for me, like I wanted to see other girls that were in it and like there's no content about that. It was all guys. So I'm glad that like I was able to make that content for people that were interested.
I love that. I'm not kidding you. Like my freshman year, I wanted to switch to engineering. I ended up realizing maybe math is not for me, but I wanted to switch to engineering because I wanted to be a woman infiltrating the space. I had like a group of guy friends that were all engineers. And I was just like, what if I did this too? I ended up not, but I love that because it is important. It's important to just like give voices to different industries. And I can't wait to talk about Rella and the tech stuff because we're going to be pivoting in a moment, but I do want to ask you some like personal questions about like what college did you go to? Like, how was it? What was it like being a student and doing this on like the internet? And like, what were your like friends saying? Like, yeah, what is it like being a
Yeah.
creator?
Yeah, I went to NC State, so in North Carolina. And when I was in school, I definitely was like one of the only ones doing social media. Like nowadays, I think you go to any university and like everyone's a content creator, everyone's an influencer. They all have TikToks. Like everyone has like 100,000 followers. It's like really common. But when I was doing it, it was not that common. It was definitely weird. Like some people were like, I don't really get it. But at that point, I was, embracing it and like I love what I'm doing and this is fun. And so I made a lot of content about engineering. I also made a lot of content about like what it's like to go to NC State, or like I would title my videos like NC State vlog so that I could get local people watching. So I had a lot of people on campus that did watch my content and they would like come up to me and tell me, hey, I like love your YouTube videos, and that was always really nice and really special. So I loved doing it in school. I think I got to a point where I was like, I don't care if people are making fun of me or what they think because I genuinely love it. And so I didn't really care or like pay attention if anyone thought it was weird. Like I kind of just embraced it. And so it was a lot of fun. Like it was a lot of fun and people were really, the people at least that I was friends with were really supportive about it. And like I was able to do vlogs with my friends and roommates, or like if I was going to like a fun like tailgate or something, I would bring my camera and like people wanted to be on it, so it was actually a really fun way to kind of document my college experience. And so I really liked it. Like in high school, it was definitely more like weird, got made fun of. In college, I feel like people didn't care as much. It was just like they kind of knew me as the girl that did YouTube in
Yeah.
school.
Talk about being a veteran too, like jokes on them, whoever didn't support you, because you are, yeah, you are the dream for so many people. So many people want to be creators or they want to feel confident. And I actually, speaking of, do you ever get comments like that from people saying like, thank you for sharing this, or you gave me the confidence to start my own channel?
Yeah, I get comments like that about not only just like starting a channel, but even like starting a business, or like I said, going into
Yeah.
engineering, or I think it's so important to show that if you are, I always say that people are like very multifaceted. So when I was starting, like when I'm starting a business and I'm starting something in the tech space, there's not a lot of women in the tech world or in the tech industry, or there's not a lot of content creators going off and starting their own companies like that. And so, and I still love beauty and fashion and makeup, and I want to talk about like dating and friends and whatever, like showing my personal life. But I feel like the content on the internet, everyone's telling you niche down, niche down, niche down, and like if you want to talk about tech, like that's it, like just be a tech founder, that's it. But it's like I have so many other interests. And so even though my growth might be slower, I do think like when you niche down, you have the potential to grow quickly, but then you might plateau. But for me, my growth has always kind of been like slow and steady, but I've been able to develop like a really strong community of people that are interested in a bunch of different things. Like I don't only want to talk about my company. Like that's not fun for me. And like don't only want to talk about, fashion. Like I want to talk about whatever I want. And so I think it's shown other women specifically like, oh, I can like doing my makeup and like getting my hair done and looking cute and being girly and posting my fashion outfits on Instagram, and also be taken seriously and start a business and, go into this field where it's majority men, and like both things can exist and you can be good at both or like showcase both of them. And so that's been like the thing that whenever people comment like, oh, you've inspired me to, do that because I didn't think that I could, or I didn't like see a lot of women in it. Like that is like the reason why I create my content.
It's so funny that we're having this conversation because Lydia and I have been talking a lot about just things shifting within our own company and just coming back to like the basics of what's important for us and our message, which is, we all have these unique talents, gifts, and abilities. Like we all have diverse interests, and like what a gift it is to share all of those things. And we have, as a business owner, you like want to find your little corner of the marketplace so that you can target and, go after that segment. But we've realized like we're here to help people share what's from within and share that through podcasts, share that in the media, share that on TV, and that we get to be like all aspects of ourselves. So you are basically just like speaking our language because we literally just said this yesterday.
We just said
Yay,
this
no,
yesterday.
I'm glad. I think so many women feel that way though, that it's like, but everyone tells you you can't do everything. You have to pick one. You have to pick one topic to talk about. And then you feel stuck. And then you feel like, well, what if I want to pivot? And you can talk about whatever you want. Like, I don't know. It's like the best thing about social media is that it's yours and you own it. And like you can literally create content on anything. And so I always just think like, I think people are scared that if they put something out there and it doesn't do well, then it's like, oh no, that's embarrassing. This video got like no views or this didn't get any likes. And I've really let go of that. I'm like, who cares? Because in the beginning, things are going to flop, but you never know what's actually going to like do well. And there's no downside if something flops. Like it's not like you lost money. It's not like you lost, like you can't post something else now. Like social media is great because it's just trial and error. You're just posting, seeing what works, and then moving on. And I think that it's a really good way to kind of let go of perfectionism.
And to remember, like, that doesn't reflect you as a person. Like, if someone doesn't like the video or they don't buy your program, like, that doesn't mean that you suck as a human. It just means, like, I don't know, it could mean so many different things, but it's not about, like, you. And I think it's so easy for us to take it personally because it is our personal lives and our personal interests. And, like, how did you start to create that boundary between you as just, like, I'm Natalie and I'm not what's on YouTube? I'm a part of it, but, like, not.
Yeah, that's actually been kind of a struggle for me with like separating the two because I do show my whole life on the internet. And like, of course, I keep things private. Like, I keep like any relationship, whether it's like family, friendship, dating, like, I try to keep that private. Like, I'll say my side of things and like share what I'm doing, but I don't like to like include my entire life on the internet. So I am obviously I edit what I put out and I like only show what I want people to see. But I still have a struggle with like separating my internet self from me because it isn't really me. Like, I hope when someone meets me in person that I am exactly the same on the internet. Or like when someone sees me on the internet and they meet me in person, I'm the exact same. Like, I don't see it as like, oh, camera's on, time to be like camera Natalie. Like, it's just me on my podcast, on my camera, in my business, whatever. But I think that like I don't know, I've been doing this for so long that I'm like, I don't know who I would be without sharing my life on social media. Like, I don't know how to separate the two because it's so intertwined with my life. So like
Yeah.
I need advice on that, on like how do you separate them, because for me it's one and the same. And I think that as of now it hasn't caused any issues, but I don't want my identity to be wrapped up in like my career or what I post on social media.
I think you sharing this though really just goes to show how authentic you are because you're like, yeah, it's kind of the same. Like, I need to work on it. But like the fact that you can just be yourself on the internet and you're just sharing your life. Like, I remember you were in, I'm like, well, as being a consumer, I remember you were in New York and like talking about like your like dinner and you were like, you had a whole video on what you were doing. And I was like, oh my gosh, I should go on more trips. Like, why don't I, as a founder, go on more trips and like let myself stay in a city for a few days? I have friends in New York. So I think that you just being yourself and being authentic is like such a gift. So thank you. But I understand life and business and entrepreneurship just in general is such a balancing act. It's like what works and what doesn't, and it's so unique to us.
Yeah, thank you so much. But it's definitely hard. Yeah, I mean, you guys know as entrepreneurs, like, who are you without your business? Like, it's like my
Yeah.
personality is also my me being a founder, me being a content creator. Like when someone asks me, so like, tell me about yourself. It's like that's like the first thing I think of, you know? It's like that's like the biggest part of me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So good.
I would love to like go back and talk about the tech stuff because I really, really, really want to dive into Rella and like how that Rich and I just have so many questions. We were talking beforehand. We're like, how did she do this? Does she have a background in tech? Like, how did she build this? Blah, blah, blah. And then I know that you like had raised some capital for us for it. So please tell us, like, let's just wind back to when you decided, oh, wait, like I actually could use this app for myself. And then what was the process like maybe finding other people to help you create it and like, yeah, just moving forward from there.
Yeah, so I had the idea of Rella after I was already doing content creation for a few years. I had just quit my job. I was doing one-on-one coaching with other influencers, helping them, treat themselves more like businesses, grow their revenue. I was freelancing with brands, helping them work with creators, helping with their social media strategy. So I was like working on all aspects of the creator space, including being a full-time creator myself. And I started getting super frustrated because I was using so many different apps to manage everything. So I had like random notes on my phone, Google Drive for like content and sending in content, or half the time it would just be sent in via email and like get lost within there. And I'd have to like scroll up and see like what are the files that I sent? Like I don't even remember. I would have spreadsheets to keep track of my revenue and keep track of scope of work. Then I would use Google Calendar to keep track of deadlines, but like nothing coexisted. Like everything was like separate and fragmented and nothing integrated with it. And then of course you have like the social media platforms that you're posting on and building out a content calendar somewhere else. And it was just a lot. And I thought like, why isn't there something that lets us as people on social media, people that are like building businesses on social media, why is there no tool out there that lets us kind of manage our workflow and manage our content? So Rella started out as a content planner, but now I don't really like to say that that's what we are because that's like one part of what we are. Essentially, we're a project management tool for creators, managers, anyone generating revenue on social media to organize and automate their campaigns and their content. So if you have brand deals, if you have clients that are paying you to like create social media content for them, if you yourself are someone that manages a social media account and you're, building a brand on it, you can use Rella. So really connecting campaign, like the revenue side of things and the content, and that's always just what I wanted. Like I just built exactly what I wanted. When I first started Rella, I was like, this is a project. You should see my document where I like listed out everything I wanted to have. And I was like charging $3 a month. Like that's it. Like whatever. Like I had no idea. Like I thought that this was gonna be something that took 2 months and like I'd pay someone to develop it. I'd be like, I'd pay someone like $10,000 to develop it, whatever. I was like, I'll do that. $3 a month charging it. It won't ever have bugs. I won't ever have to have a dev. Like it's going to be like a passive income, whatever. Like that was in my mind what this was. And when I first wanted this, because I was like, I just want this product. And I quickly realized that was not what it was. Like an app is so much work. This could be a full-fledged company. And I wanted it, like once I started playing around with it more and like fleshing it out more, I was like, wait, I actually like have such big ideas for this. And like, I think this could help like millions of people. And so I started taking it more seriously, treating it more like a business. I found my co-founders from a mutual friend, and they were the ones that developed everything. So like I don't know how to code. I don't do any of the development. And so they developed everything for me. We became co-founders. We then ended up raising capital. So we raised a pre-seed round of funding. And now we're just
Can we
growing the
pause
business.
on that? How the heck
Yeah.
do you raise capital?
Yeah.
We were talking about this. We're like, what is the word? The word is like something capital. Raise it.
Yeah.
This is not our realm, but we want to hear all about it.
Yeah. And keep in mind, it was not my realm either. Like, I did not know a thing. I didn't know what the term VC was. I didn't know what raising capital meant. I didn't know literally anything because I was never in that space. I never worked at a startup. I was never interested in startups. Like, didn't never crossed my mind. But as I was working with my co-founders, they kind of brought up the idea of it. Just they were like, I think we can like raise money for this. Like, I think, this is what we're gonna need to do. And also I realized, wait, this is actually so expensive to do, like to continue to pay engineers and then pay a designer and pay, like this is a very like high performing, high paying people that we need to hire that like we don't have the money for this. And so I started just like reading books about this, listening to podcasts, watching YouTube videos, started asking other founders for help, and asking them like, hey, can you give me like advice? Like, what did you do? And that's just when I started learning about it. So I started kind of learning the terms at first and like, what does everything mean? And I was like, okay, I guess I need to like talk to investors and just like give a pitch. And so it all came from just talking to people. So like talking to other founders, I've done it before, really helped, but then like consuming a ton of content about it. And there's so much content out there about like if you want to learn how to start a company, if you want to learn how to start a tech startup, anything like that. Like there's so much content available. And so I just started like learning about it that way. And then just on LinkedIn, like reaching out to people and being like, hey, I see you're an investor. Can we talk? And they would take a meeting with me. And my first pitch and my first deck and everything was like horrible, like so bad. It reminds me of like my first YouTube video, like not good, but you just have to keep practicing to try and eventually you'll get it, and like I was so nervous. I remember my first investor meeting. I was so nervous for it, but I don't know, I probably didn't do well, but I don't know how it was. Like they wanted a second meeting, so I couldn't have been like that horrible, but I just remember being so nervous. And then now, like, I don't even get nervous at all because I'm like, they're asking you questions that you know the answers to. Like, they're not trying to trick you. They're asking you about your business. Like, you should know the ins and outs of your business better than anyone else. And so just have a plan, like make sure you understand your business, which any business owner should, and then explain it to them. And like, you should believe in what you're building and believe that this is a really great product in a big market and that like you believe in what you're trying to do. And as long as that confidence comes across, I think it's, and you answer their questions, like it's not, they're not trying to trick you or anything like that. And so once I started realizing that and having more meetings and talking to more people, I was like, okay, this is going to be time consuming, but it's not like it's not like brain power difficult, like it's not like I'm doing something that I don't already know how to do. It's just like putting in the time and practice and executing.
So inspiring, Natalie. I'm so proud of you. I know we've just
Oh,
met,
thank
but I
you.
think this is absolutely amazing. And you just show people it's possible. Like you reached out to people, you found information. Like you're right. Like this information is out there. We just need to like seek it and just take that one step forward. I am curious, like how you came up with the name Rella, because I have family friends who are Rellas, and I'm like, are we related? Are they related?
That is so funny. Wait, so it's no like not a family name or anything like that, but it's I wanted to I knew that the social media industry, the influencer industry can sometimes be very transactional, especially with all the marketplaces that are out there and everything like that. And I always wanted Rella to feel like someone's assistant. And so I wanted it to feel very like personable. So I would always say, okay, it's about building relationships, not transactions. It's about, I want to be relatable. I want it to feel like it's like a person. Like I thought of Alexa and Siri and things like that were like names. Like Alexa's a real human name, but like Siri's not a real human name, but like it sounds like it could be, it's not like far-fetched. I'm sure there are kids named Siri now, like it's a real name. And then I kept saying the word like relationships, and I kept like throwing that out there. And so our designers came up with like a bunch of names to, have us choose from. And one of the names was Rella. And I just loved it because it's catchy. It like kind of like flows off your tongue. It wasn't taken, like it was a trademark available. And it does sound like it could be a person, it's like not,
It
but it's
is.
not. Yeah, exactly.
It
So like
is.
when you type in, when you Google Rella, nothing comes up besides like a Tyler the Creator song. And so like now when you Google Rella, we come up. And so I'm like, okay, good. It's like SEO friendly also. So I love the name though. It's like, I think it's like quite catchy. And I also read a book where it said that companies that like do best, or like companies that like are successful, usually end in vowels. And I was like, that's so interesting. Like the startup, like techie apps, they usually end in a vowel. And like, obviously that's not like true for everyone, but I was like, okay, because it's like easy to say, it's easy to, you know, roll off your tongue. So that's how we came up with it. It wasn't like anything I did. It was like our designers that came up with it, but I loved it.
I love that. Yeah, we'll just decide that it's going to be successful with any and it already is. So I love this. We're just out here like, yeah, it's just my aunt. So
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, it's Jessica and Tommy's like cousin. Like they're all related.
Is their last name Rella?
Yeah, it's
That's
like a
so
family name
funny.
from Italy. So I was like, oh, maybe she's Italian. Like, it's all that.
No, that is so funny.
it's hilarious. Um, I love that you were not afraid to just DM people on LinkedIn. I think that's really powerful. Just in general, we always talk about this, especially visibility on purpose. We have our own like containers for entrepreneurs who want to start getting out there and getting themselves featured. So we talk a lot about just doing the thing and not being nervous because you might not be perfect your first time. Like your first podcast interview might be a flop, in your perspective, but you have to just keep going. You have to just keep practicing. So what kind of advice would you give to our listeners that are wanting to do all of these things? Maybe they want to start a YouTube channel. Maybe they want to reach out to an investor. Like, what advice would you give them to go out and just do it?
Yeah, I think exactly that is like you just have to start. Like I think so many people are in their head about, okay, but I'm gonna, I need to batch a bunch of content and I need to have a plan and I need to schedule this and I need to schedule these interviews. And it's like a huge plan before anything can like actually get out there. And I think planning can be good sometimes, but so many people use like planning as kind of just like an excuse, I think, as like, well, I need to get all of this stuff ready before I actually do it. And 99% of the time, they'll never do it. Like whenever people say that, I'm like, you're never gonna do it. Like I just already know because you're saying like, oh, well, the reason why I haven't is because of this, and this. And I'm like, but you can just do it. Like you can just put out one video. You can just like put out, email the first person or like ask someone for coffee and like get the conversation going. Like I think some people think that by doing that, it's like a commitment. Like you can always pivot. You can talk to one person and be like, "This isn't for me," and never go through with it. But like at least you took that first step and started figuring it out. Because I think too many people just think things are like they make things more difficult than they are. It's like just put out your first video. It's going to be bad. Like don't worry about it being good or bad. Just do it and start practicing it. Because like if you start getting used to filming content and editing it and then uploading it, you're going to get better over time. You're never going to get better by thinking about it in your head and not doing it. And same with like starting a business. Like you could draft a 20-page business plan and have all of these projections and blah, blah, blah. It's going to change the second you actually launch your business. Like things are going to change. And so you have to just like I'm like anti business plan. I actually like don't think you need one. I think you should just kind of like go with the flow and see how your business changes and pivots as it's actually in the market. But push like start talking to people, start networking, start getting the domain, start just like little steps that you can do instead of planning. So I'm like anti-plan, just do it. Like that's like my biggest piece of advice. Because if you think too much about it, you're never gonna get it done. You're gonna talk yourself out of it.
It's so true. I have some really cringe-worthy videos from like 2016 where I'm like, "Hi, I'm Bridget. We're gonna do 3 breathing exercises together now."
Yeah.
And I have like my voice is so different because I like wasn't fully confident in speaking behind a camera. So preach, 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 sister. Like we just need to move it forward. And now I look back at those videos and go, "What a cutie. So glad she started." Like it's such a
Yeah.
good reminder.
Like even with a podcast, like with my podcast, I started like doing, like solo episodes, some Zoom episodes, whatever. And now imagine if you were like, actually like we don't want to start the podcast until we have a production studio. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm sure a production studio would make things better. Like it would be a better video and it would be that, but like that, then you're stopping yourself from like the opportunities that exist now. Like it's not like, like I think that with my podcast, like I don't have the best production value. I record in my co-working space with one camera. It's like it's not the greatest quality. And a lot of people, I can compare myself to these like huge podcasts that, you know, have a whole studio and they have multiple cameras and they pan back and forth and their TikToks are amazing and all this. And I'm like, okay, until I have that, then I can't launch my podcast. It's like, I might never get there, but like I'm already providing value now with like what I do have. And so, and I'm already like opening up doors and it's only going to get better. Now I know like I can eventually get there, but I need to start somewhere. And so just like not comparing yourself to, I always say like don't compare yourself to someone's 100th video for your first one, or like don't compare your first video to someone's 100th video. Um, and so I think that's just like important. If you want to compare your first video, go back, look at mine. You can compare it to that. That's what like a cool comparison.
Yes. And there's always going to be like a million different iterations of what you're doing anyway. Like what you think looks awesome right now is going to change. So even if you have the production studio and all of the things, probably like 2, 3 years down the road, you're going to be like, oh my God, I hate the way I like designed that space and I want to change it because things are always evolving. So I love this message of just ripping the Band-Aid off and just doing the thing. And we can always improve over time. Like nothing's going to be perfect when we start out anyway. So we might as well just do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, with Rella, our first oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, keep going. I want to hear about Rella.
I was gonna say, like, our first version of Rella was so bad, had so many bugs, like so not great at all. Like it was just a plain content planner, had a bunch of bugs, whatever. Thank God we launched it when we did though, because we got so much feedback on it. We iterated, and now, I mean, we're getting people to like, hey, try us again. I'm like, okay, I know that first version wasn't great, but like, come back, try us again. And now the feedback that we're getting is like, wow, I can see how much they've improved. I can see that they're evolving. And we would have never known what to improve on, what's not working, what the bugs were, unless we put it out there. Like, we wouldn't have been able to know if it was just like hidden, like within our small team.
Totally, especially tech. It's like everything is all about the user experience. And so you need to have some users in order to learn like how to update it to the best of your ability and for them to be excited about it. So it's such a good message. Just like preach, preach, preach forever. To wrap this episode up, I know that you're a big reader. I would love to hear some book recommendations, maybe like wellness ones, but also fun ones.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I read so many books, and like now that you're asking me, I'm like, I can't think of a single one.
You're like my 65 that I read since January.
I know, I've literally read so many books, and I'm like, what book would I recommend? So there's like a ton of business books that I love. I always
Mhm.
get encouraged by reading other founder stories. Oh, Burn Rate is a really good one if you want like not just a business book, but also memoir style. It's from the founder of Bonobos, and
Mhm.
he was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And so it talks about his journey of being a founder while also having bipolar disorder. And it is so good. Not only does he actually talk about like building his business, but then he talks about like the mental health aspect of it and like what he's gone through with it. And so it was just so inspiring and also like so cool to see the story behind this like super successful company that was acquired by Walmart for like hundreds of millions of dollars or however much it was acquired for, and to see like the behind the scenes of what he was dealing with at the time. So I definitely recommend that book. That's one of my favorite books. And then in terms of like health and wellness, trying to think. I need to like look at the books that I've read to see it, but honestly, I'd love a good like fiction book now to get
Yeah.
me like out of work mode. So like reading, and right now I'm reading like the Fourth Wing and Iron Flame series, and like
Okay.
nothing to
I've
do with
heard about
business,
these.
nothing. Yeah, but it's just good because it like turns my brain off from work mode, and sometimes I really like that because sometimes when I'm reading business books, I like will get re-inspired, but then it's like 10:30 p.m. and I'm like, wait, I don't want my brain to be like turned on for like work stuff. So
I find I can only read business books like in the morning because then it more so like gives me ideas and inspiration to like implement something or maybe iterate or just have an idea that I hadn't thought of. But like at night, you cannot find me catching anything or reading or even listening to anything business related. And I have to ask you if you listen to this podcast because I'm obsessed with it. And Lydia's gonna eye roll because we should have a joke, Lydia, that anytime I say this, I have to pay $1 or something like that. Do
I
you
don't even think
listen?
we need like clients at that point. Can you just put it in our business account?
I need to be like an affiliate of their podcast. Do you listen to My First Million, the podcast?
Yes, I love that podcast. Yes,
She's in the club.
I love it.
Because she
You
was like,
should
yeah,
be an
they sold it.
affiliate.
Oh my God. I'm obsessed with the show. The amount of times I talk. I mean, they just like have good conversations with founders. They talk about interesting things that, I don't know, they just ask really good questions. They're like the Joe Rogan of like good questions, in my opinion. So
Yes.
thank you.
No,
I'm so happy.
I like them a lot because I love business podcasts that aren't too serious. You know, it's like it's not like a
Yes.
professor, like a textbook. Like they're funny and they like joke with each other, but then I also feel like I'm participating in a more like intellectual conversation with them while still being like lighthearted and funny. So that's why I like it. And I was actually just talking about that with a friend, not that specific podcast, but being like, I like to meet people that are really smart, but like also funny and like not, you know, like multifaceted again, like we were talking about, because I want to be able to have conversations about business, but I also want to have conversations about like what I'm doing this weekend and like this fun stuff too, you know, and I think that they do a good job at that. And I love their podcast.
We always talk about that. Or like we just need some like laughter mixed in with some serious business. So totally agree. Yeah, we're big fans over here. Natalie, where can everybody find you? What websites, what different, oh, also, are you on TikTok? I don't know if I follow you on
Mhm.
there. All right, I need to follow
Yeah,
you
I
on
am.
TikTok.
Yeah, I don't have too many followers on there, but I'm trying. Hopefully it doesn't get banned. So
I know. I was thinking about that the other day. I'm like, "Ugh, I just love my TikTok scrolls. But anyway, where can everybody find you and connect with you?
yeah, you can find me at Natalie Barbu across all platforms, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, anywhere. And then my podcast is the Real Real Podcast. You can also just type in my name and it'll come up as well. And then Rella is getrella.com, or you can download it on the App Store.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us today. This was such a fun conversation. I know it's going to inspire so many people. And thank you everyone for listening to another episode of Visibility Era, the podcast.